Our little guy is getting mugged. We have a new set. We moved. All of our stuff is gone. We feel naked, but we have Fortuna here from my desk. I have him on my desk.
Yeah, we're gonna build back from the ground up here.
Yeah, it'll be like a shock wave. Like it'll be one column, and then I'll just build.
Yes.
All from Bib over here, little baby boy. So it's been a month, almost 2.
It's been a little while.
Actually, it has been 2 months.
Had a hiatus there.
Yeah.
I guess near the end of the summer was the last time we did one.
Yes, it was before September because we moved to this location in September, and then October we never got to because by the time I got my stuff together, it was Halloween, and we can't really film on Halloween.
No.
So, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Long time no see.
Yes.
If you ignore school.
Right. That whole thing.
Yeah, that sad crawl every day.
Ty's got another side project going on too that we were talking about and collaborating with him a little bit there. Yeah.
For a minute, I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "Oh wait."
He's got lots of stuff going on.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty big deal.
So today, if people at home have been paying attention, they'll notice that we have been doing every episode of the series.
Yes.
Forward.
Yes.
I think we kind of pulled halfway for episode 7. I think we kind of cheated on that one and did the toys.
Yeah.
But either way, if you follow that, we are at episode 2.
We
Attack
are at
of the Clones.
2. Attack of the Clones.
For movie fans and Star Wars fans, this is a problem because no one wants to talk about this movie in Star Wars for 5 minutes, let alone half an hour.
Yeah, and we're like, I think we should say at the start too, we are huge Star Wars fans. Like, I am a huge Star Wars fan, but then Attack of the Clones comes along.
Yeah, Phantom Menace is like the child that everyone hates, but episode 2 is like the child that no one wants to talk about. It's the middle child. No one wants to talk. Everyone forgets about it, and they like it that way.
Yeah, you just ignore the middle child.
So, again, us having to elaborate on this, we decided let's just go straight for the gut. Let's just do a review of the actual movie. And where most people would just rat on this movie because it's the easiest thing to do, we thought let's challenge ourselves as Star Wars fans and actually say some things we like. But also we're going to say some things we don't like about the movie because we have some stuff we want to get off our chest.
Yes.
Mr. Lucas.
Yeah, so we're sort of going to bounce back and forth between, a point of the movie that we didn't like and then something we did, and we'll go back and forth from there.
So, do you want to start off? Let's start off with something positive.
Okay.
Tell me one thing that you really did like how they executed it in Attack of the Clones.
So I guess I'm going to talk about my favorite scene and my favorite character from the movie. Like I think Ewan McGregor did a fantastic job with Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes, he did great.
The new movies. That's one of the consistent strong points in the new movies. And so his character was still strong and solid.
Yes.
And I really I found it interesting, the storyline when he went and investigated what was going on with the clones and discovered that they were, I don't know about this plot point, the genetic clone of Jango Fett, which is the father of Boba Fett. But anyways, I really like the scene where he tries to stop Jango Fett from leaving the planet. They have a little battle, and Jango Fett makes it onto Slave One, which Obi-Wan then attaches a tracker to so he can find them. I thought that was a very cool scene, like a mix of fighting between, it was neat to see a Jedi fight a non-Jedi who is still a skilled fighter and could give him a real
run for
battle.
his money.
Exactly, yes, yeah.
It's funny, with you doing that, I'm going to segue into the thing that I really liked. I know in the Bounty Hunter episode, we complained about Boba Fett. I mean, Jango Fett, not about Boba Fett. Boba Fett's great. I don't like what they did with Jango Fett's backstory. Like with Boba Fett's backstory and Jango Fett's son. But one thing I do like, if you ignore the last name and things surrounding him, he's actually a cool character.
Yes.
And So as a child that read the books and like the TV show and stuff like that, the Mandalorians, Mandalorians is what they are.
Yep, Boba Fett's race or whatever.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it's a cool, like, I like the chronology of it. It's kind of like a space Australia. Like, it's kind of like, supposed to be like dodgy. Like, I'm not saying Australia's dodgy, but I'm saying like it used to be, Australia was originally a prison. That's what I'm getting at. Like, it was
that outlaw history kind of.
Yeah.
Badlands kind of outback area and stuff like that. Lawlessness generally.
Yeah, it was great. And then with the cartoon, they built upon it by saying like they're trying to put all that behind them and stuff like that. It's an interesting story. And again, as a fan of the Mandalorians, I keep almost saying midichlorians, which you do not want to say I'm a fan of them, but they're not bad. And a little bit of history for Star Wars fans, and if you're a movie fan, you're really going to find this interesting. You've heard of Clint Eastwood, right?
Of course, yeah. Good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah.
Hanging high. Lots of good stuff, yes.
Lots of good stuff. Funny thing is, the guy that played Boba Fett, he said that a lot of what he did was inspired by Clint Eastwood. And you can see that after finding out about that and going back and seeing how he holds himself. It's like, it's like the posture is very much...
I picture Dirty Harry when I think of like the character from Clint Eastwood, sort of.
If you look at the cover from Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, how he stands is very Boba Fett. Like I see that, especially if you look at pictures of Boba Fett that they took for advertisements. So like that was definitely there. And then they kind of took it a step further with Jango Fett and gave him the two pistols, which was kind of cool. And from a history standpoint, it's nice that they gave a little bit more of a nod to it by going, this is more where we've got it from.
Yeah.
And two pistols is always cool.
Yes, yeah.
The armor, shiny. As much as I don't like how shiny they made the prequels, it looked good on Jango.
It was kind of cool to see that like twist, like the obviously similar uniform, but then the different version of it too. Like that was neat. And I agree that it's an important character that, like, if all the stormtroopers are based on this genetic model, that person is interesting and significant to know. We've talked about this before in past episodes. Like, I somewhat just found it forced how like everything needs to connect and overlap. That it was like it's really like that's Boba Fett's lineage that makes up all the stormtroopers, because Boba Fett's such a notorious character, and then to think like all of the stormtroopers are essentially just Boba Fett, then it's like. It's weird, and the stormtroopers have a bit of a reputation for being bumbling a little bit and never hitting anything. And you think of Boba Fett as this like incredible warrior, right? So there's that.
It's like he doesn't take orders from anyone. Okay, maybe he takes orders from everyone. There's two lines of
we talked about how like he's the guy that Vader's like, whoa, dude, like don't worry, I'll do what you say, kind of thing. And then stormtroopers are just like, maybe we'll hit him. He's over there, bud. Like,
maybe what they do is just like there's like how like the UN and stuff like that try to make everyone equal and like fair.
Right.
Maybe they have like a space version of that. So they're like, since this is like a bounty hunter, there's actually no glasses in it, or like it's literally just painted, so they can't see. So they're just shooting blindly.
Right.
Maybe that's what it is. They have to use their sense. They're like, if you look at it that way, they're doing great. They're getting close at least.
True. I did with Attack of the Clones too, in that scene. I loved like the backdrop, like that planet being like the ocean planet, and there being like a sort of like storm or swell going on in the background as they're fighting and stuff. Just because it's so like very unique and just a different. I don't think there's another battle in the Star Wars universe that sort of takes place over a big body of water or anything like that. So again, just like using the fact that you've got a universe full of planets to create some of these different worlds.
Different landscapes and stuff. Instead of making a second sand planet.
Exactly. Yeah.
It looks the exact same as Tatooine.
Right? Yeah.
So now that we've been gracious to it, let's go straight for the heart and do something we don't like.
Okay. Should we start like with the strongest things we don't like, or start small and sort of like build up?
I like how when I said, let's start with something good, you're like, okay, this is something good. And then we're like, let's start with something bad. And we're like, okay, so what part do you want me to start with?
Right, okay.
It's like, okay, let me just take out the map here. I got different spots I can start with. let's start with the most popular one and talk about the romance.
Okay.
What specifically about the romance did you not like?
Oh man, I didn't. Okay, so the romance scene was juxtaposed with Obi-Wan going to the I forget what it's called. It starts with a K. Anyways, the ocean planet and figuring out what's going on with the clones and stuff. And so you'd see that kind of cool and interesting thing, and the like people that were on that planet were kind of neat looking and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you go back to like Anakin and Padme playing in the grass
With giant guinea pigs.
and I kept thinking, like, when I watched Anakin, again, because I'm like older generation and grew up with Vader, I was watching Darth Vader. Like
They're
pre-Darth
frolicking.
Vader. I didn't think of him as like Anakin being separate. Like it's like you're evolving towards being Darth Vader. And so yeah, then he was like, there was long scenes of him frolicking in the grass. There was one point where he gets on the back of one of those giant hamster rhinoceros things and is sort of like showing off for Padme and falls off and he's laughing. And I was in the theater here in Goderich uptown, watching this movie, highly anticipated, just sort of like, you know, dealt with Phantom Menace, like, okay, we've got new Star Wars stuff, like, great, let's just take it. And I yelled at the screen to the point where my girlfriend, who's now my wife, had to grab my arm and be like, shh, be quiet, because I yelled like, that's Vader! And my whole point was like, that's not Vader on the screen. Like Vader didn't frolic in the field. Like that's not, I still do not accept that like that is Vader's history and like lineage. I just can't get it in my head. And I don't understand, like they made a point of accentuating the romantic aspect so much when there's so many things you can do as far as like subtly, like just them giving looks or them holding hands or them going off together by themselves. Like I don't understand why there was like multiple scenes focused on them frolicking in the grass, and it's so antithetical to the way that I understood and viewed Darth Vader that I couldn't do it. And I literally yelled in the theater at the screen, that's not Vader. Anyways, what do you think about that?
So can I do something different?
Absolutely, yes.
I kind of want to do. I'm not gonna say again. I'm not gonna do a good thing about it, and I'm not. By the way, my least favorite part about that scene is how whiny Anakin is. He's very, very whiny.
Right.
He like whiny about the sand. I almost said whiny about his mother, which I guess if your mother died, you'd be quite upset. Anyway, the thing I remember when I watched. The Attack of the Clones, after I saw all of them and after I started understanding movies and stuff,
right?
I looked at Attack of the Clones in a different way from a lot of people, which is, I didn't see it in Phantom Menace, but I hugely saw it in Attack of the Clones, which is, for example, you're a teacher. So when you sit down, or like go back to when your first test you had a grade or something like that, your first exam. Let's say you had, I don't know, how many people do you usually have in a class, like average?
20.
20? You look at the stack of exams like this, and you think, God, that's a lot. Like, that's a lot of marking.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, when you go, like, let's say your house is a mess. Like, you know, you had a rough week, so you took a break, then you look at your house, you go, oh my God, my house is a mess.
For some reason, the image that's coming into my mind, I used to wash dishes. And so like after a 100-person wedding, when there'd be like stacks of dishes everywhere and like frying pans, like, and it just like looked like forever, right? That idea of it's just built up so much work there.
And for me, the thing I think about is when the first time I did the news, I remember looking at it and just going, like, what do I do next? And I think with Star Wars having such a rich history and so much people liking it, I'm not going to say, oh, you know, he had a lot of pressure, so go through with it. I see it more as he went, God, I have a lot of ground to cover. And he chose to do 3 movies.
Yes.
Phantom Menace, he was kind of testing the waters, and he was a little bit rusty. He did terrible things. And then afterwards he went, I have 2 movies that I have to cover a lot of ground. So he was kind of like, where do I start? What do I do with this? Like, so he's kind of just throwing everything in, like, okay, you know, I have to get in why he had kids but he's not allowed. I have to get in this and this and this and this.
Yeah, the Emperor's rise to power and the like leashing the Clone Wars. And
Yeah.
you're right. Like the pacing of the movies is very different, and yeah, there's a bunch crammed in.
He was like, he was flustered. He didn't know where to start. He was like, I don't know what to do. And I honestly think it would have been better if he went through it, like before he made Phantom Menace. He went through it, he laid all them out, and he got a bunch of people to go over it and over it and over it, because they had a lot of ground to cover, and there was definitely a better way to cover it. So I just feel like he was flustered and he didn't deal with it well. And the biggest part where it comes out is how it goes from the excitingness of Jango Fett to just frolicking in a field. It's so mismatched, but
Yes,
I feel like he was like, I have an hour, I need to get it so that at least these parts are matched up. Here, this is what we're doing. And that's why, honestly, this is my least favorite Star Wars film, which Phantom Menace I couldn't get through the first time I watched it. And I did get through this one mostly because of my next thing I'm going to say is my favorite part. But it was just very flustered, and I really saw that. And that's one of the big things I hated about the romance was I could see how flustered he was. And I just felt like he could have done bigger things.
And see, that's like, I feel like that point totally sort of adds on to that idea of where I'm like, why did they have multiple scenes dedicated? Like, even if you want to have one scene, if you want to have 2 minutes showing that they're falling in love or whatever, fine. But like you say, they're covering so much ground, but then they have like, you know, like 5 to 10 minutes dedicated just to frolicking in the grass. And it's like, you didn't spend that much time showing the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like it's like on the paper he had.
Why? I don't.
It's like he had on the paper Episode 1, Anakin becomes a Jedi. Episode 2, how they fall in love. Episode 3, Darth Vader, and that's what he had. And then they went, let's start filming.
Yes.
That's all I got. Let's just go. Racism is also somewhere in Episode 1, and then also he's like, let's just keep going with it. It just, I could really see him just be flustered and not sure what to do with it.
See, and I don't picture like I don't know, and who knows, like, but I don't picture George Lucas being flustered. I picture him more being like just a guy at that point that can't really be told that he's doing anything wrong.
True.
You know what I mean? And to me, it would be hard, like if I had come up with this idea and this idea had flourished into this like cultural phenomenon, then when I finally decide to go back to it, it's like, no, I'm the man. Like here's my ideas, and we're going to do it this way because remember, I made A New Hope, and remember, I wrote The Empire Strikes Back, and remember Return of the Jedi, like all that stuff, right? So I think he was just sort of like, and I'm sure, I'm not exactly sure who he worked with, but it would be very intimidating for people to say, hey, George Lucas, your idea for Star Wars is actually not very good, and we should change this, right? Like imagine, you know, yeah, you're the guy that made an X-Wing fighter popular, but no, I want to change this scene here, right? So and you wonder who he worked with, whether he got people that would truly challenge him versus people that were just sort of like, I'm going to help create your vision or whatever kind of thing, right? And you can't fault a guy who's had that much success either. Like I'm speaking about it critically, but to me it is too hard to fault a guy who's had that much success who says, I want to go with my ideas, right? They hit huge in the past, they're going to hit again kind of thing. So
the one thing, and I don't know if you know this, and this is just a side thing I thought of, like George Lucas, again, the guy made Star Wars, I can't be angry at him.
No.
But there's one thing that for me, more than the prequels, more than anything, damaged George Lucas for me. And it's the fact, and I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but so after they filmed Episode 3, Samuel Jackson went up to George Lucas and said, that's not the end of Mace Windu. That can't be the end. Like, he's got to still be living. And George Lucas said, sure. Like, sure, you can still be living. Like, as Samuel Jackson said, it was kind of like he didn't care whether he was still living or not. And I can see that, you know, maybe just like Harrison Ford, who's done with it because, you know, it's always followed around.
Right.
He could have that, but just for me, where before I could see the prequels as he was trying, he just couldn't get it right. It's kind of like in school, like when someone's trying but they can't get it right, you're like, okay, you know what, you're at least trying.
Yes, absolutely.
It was more damaging to find out that he was like, sure, whatever. This guy can still be living. I don't care who lives or dies.
Right.
Where
right.
at least even if he went, no, he's dead, I've been like, it might have been a bad idea, but you know what? You stuck with your bad idea.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. You don't want somebody like waffling on their choices or sort of going back. Like I don't watch Game of Thrones anymore. I watched the first couple seasons, but I heard there's like the big thing where a guy gets killed and then he gets brought back to life later on, right? And my whole thing with that is it does diminish a lot, because then anytime a character dies, do you really have to care? Why care? Because they could just be brought back soon, right?
Yeah.
So it's like death is the ultimate emotional trope that we can use in storytelling and stuff, and then when you take out the force of the consequence of that, then what is it? Who cares? Somebody died, who cares? Maybe they'll come back in next week's episode. Like, it's
like Doctor Who. At the end of the season, you're like, whatever, there's gonna be another one. Who cares?
Right. Yeah.
You know, and then it's announced it's gonna be a girl one, and for some reason everyone loses their mind.
People like doing that.
Yes, people do lose their mind. So now we've talked about the romance part. Let's talk about another thing that
we liked.
Okay. May I start this time?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
Because I know that you also like this, and this is my favorite part, and it always has been since I was been a kid. And when I was a kid playing with action figures, I always recreated it with different characters, and that was the big Coliseum fight.
Right.
Like all I wanted as a child was just see a bunch of Jedi fight, anything. I'd even take a rock, just fight something. And I got that. Sure, it was mindless droids, and it would have been cooler if it was Sith, but I'm sure if they did it with Sith, people would still be complaining. So I liked it. I really liked it. It might not have been the most intelligent thing in that movie, but it was really fun to watch.
So just to clarify, did you like the scene like where it starts with the monsters and stuff in that battle, or did you like the insect part where they fight them at the end, or both, all of it kind of thing, or whatever?
It's funny because I actually, my answer is going to be weird because I completely forgot about the monsters part. But as a child, I liked the monsters more because it was cool. Like I liked the idea of like their prison, like they are sitting there and they go and they fight these monsters. I always thought it was really cool.
And I like that. Just I'll interrupt for a second. I like the tone of that scene because it sort of brought back some of that Star Wars comedy where they were like in trouble, but they weren't really worried about it, and they were just sort of like, they knew they were going to get out of it. They didn't know exactly how, and there was some sort of like funny, cool dialogue and like some some great scenes and stuff in there too.
And like that, I also really liked the monster design. One thing I haven't talked about on the show was when I was a kid, I played this. It was kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, but it was Star Wars. Me and my friends always used to play it, and we went to the shop and we'd buy these little Star Wars things. The store is no longer around, sadly, but these things are, and I still have a bunch of them. And I remember the biggest thing I had, and every time me and my buddies used to play it, I had my guy, then with me, no matter what, I'd always find some way to fit them into the story. I had all three of the monsters. It's cool. The only one I remember the name of now is Rake.
There was sort of like a crazy cat on steroids.
Yeah.
There was like a rhinoceros thing.
And then
there was like a dinosaur that had tentacles, kind of.
No, it was like a crab with a giant neck.
Okay. Yes. Right. Okay. Crab thing, more like.
Yeah. And I always had them. I was like, these are awesome. And I remember they were
yes.
In this game, we actually had cards for them, and they were like the strongest. Like these were cards actually given by the card company, I think the company that made them. And I remember like it was like as soon as I could, I'd use them, and everyone would just be like. Because then you'd spend like an hour trying to defeat these things because they were so overpowered. And it was just like my favorite thing ever. I always liked the idea. Again, as a fan of the Godzilla movies, big fan of it. And then of course following it up after with Jedi just wrecking everything.
Yes. See, and one, like I like that whole scene, the monsters, but I felt like the insect part at the end, that was another part that felt sort of like rushed to me. Like
it
that
was
last
very
part
rushed.
of the battle, right? And like big things happen, like Jango Fett getting killed, right, in that scene. And it all happened very quick. And I remember thinking, like the monster part was cool, and then the battle in the stadium and all the Jedi's coming, but it's like, it just seemed over so fast. And that was a part that I remember thinking that could have been cool. Like even showing a few the way the things were, I remember thinking like, man, this is a huge Jedi battle. There's like 10 different Jedis here. Like, let's see, some Jedi fighting. And they didn't show it very well, like the lightsaber stuff or whatever, right? So that they're like, I like that scene generally, but I feel like especially the end of it sort of is another part of that like rushed tone overall or whatever.
One thing, and I've studied film since I was a little kid, and one thing if you study film you learn, and this is not something to you, this is something to the audience. If you're gonna have a scene like that where a lot of things happen, Jango Fett got killed, all this stuff, like amazing action. Which sometimes is effective.
Some of the Jedis got killed.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like
A lot of them did.
Like, yeah, that's a big deal, is it not? And they just quickly showed it, and then I'm like, the Jedi just died. Like, what's going on? Anyways,
in movies where things like that happen, it's always really good to have like a heartfelt death for a character that you've grown to. But it's also sometimes very effective to just do, oh my God, what just happened? Like, everyone's dead. But the problem is after that, you always have like a cool down, like them dealing with it, them going, oh my God, what? So like them going, oh my God, what just happened? Where in this, they just went, okay, now let's go fight a war. And then Mace Windu and Yoda fight. And I was like, you guys need to slow down for a second. Let me process what just happened.
Yes, that's what I felt like, and it just jumps in right after that to sort of the final scenes with the Dooku battle and then the Clone Wars and stuff. And again, the Clone Wars was a part that was just like that was, there's good and bad there, because I was like, okay, giant battle, like Star Wars movies always have this giant battle at the end and we'll see how it plays out. And like all I remember about the battle is that one like globe type spaceship trying to take off, and they're like, concentrate your fire there, and it doesn't take off, and then that's sort of the battle or whatever. And it's like there was some cool machine, like it's some cool ground machines that you just sort of saw flashes of. Like I still can't really picture them clearly because of how much was in these scenes and everything and stuff. And I remember being like, okay, like I've sat through whatever in this movie, like let's see the Clone Wars and see what happens. And then that was like done in a second, and it was like, okay, this is over.
The ending seems kind of like a video game. Like it's just keeps going from one big battle to the next, and then just the end. It seems a lot like a video game.
Yes.
Of just let's go, let's keep going. This is we need to keep the action going. So if you ignore the first half, it's like a Michael Bay movie.
It's even like a huge plot point too, to where Yoda's like, what have we done by taking on these clones and the clone army and stuff like that? But it just sort of
flashes
like,
it.
Yeah, it's just quickly, and it's like that's like sort of the crux of like shifting that universe, right? Like that's one of the big choices, other than Palpatine taking over. Like the choice to embrace the clone army sort of defines the Empire going forward or whatever. And it's just, I don't know. It just seemed like there wasn't the gravitas that it deserved when it was introduced.
I have a question with that, and it made me think of something. What if you could have went back before George Lucas made these movies, like before he made Episode 2? You can't change anything about any of the other ones, but Clone Wars. What would you have wanted to see? Like what would you rather have seen? Obviously a different movie, but
yeah. So what I would have seen is like the gritty side again, with the second one being sort of like darker, right? The way Empire was or whatever. Like a huge focus on the gritty side of the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
That's like fast forward through all, like even where I thought the clone thing was interesting in this movie, I would much rather have that be a very quick thing at the start and focus on the significant battles in the Clone Wars and how, because they reference those in episode 4, 5, and 6, the original movies, that it like established some people's reputation, right? And so like, let's see what Obi-Wan did in the Clone Wars. Like, let's see some of those amazing battles, or like when, they were forced to, just be in bad situations, how the Jedi's escaped. Like, that's where I would have liked to see the focus. And again, it was part of my surprise when they just sort of started the battle, and I'm like, okay, what happened with the Clone Wars? And then they just sort of trail off.
Brushed it off.
Yeah. What about you? What would you have liked for the focus?
For me, with as much characters as there is that that are already led into.
You wanted a full romantic comedy, didn't you?
Yes, I
Anakin,
wanted
Padme.
more complaining about sand. I really wanted to know about his sand. I really wanted to know about the sand. I was
That
like,
scene where she shows up at his work and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm here, and they get in like a little fight, and then they have to make up on a date.
yeah, I wanted that. I
Yes.
wanted it. I wanted the commercials like this summer, Anakin gets a surprise. It's just that. That's what I wanted. I was hoping for that. Actually, weirdly enough, my focus, I thought for what I would have preferred is Yoda. I know
Yes.
we had to focus on Anakin, but I thought for the focus of episode 2, what will be better is have Anakin do like actual Jedi stuff, like have him go out and do these
Some of the training and stuff that we saw with Luke in Empire. That
have them do that and have a lot of the movie, like obviously start the Clone Wars at the beginning of the movie. Don't start at the end. Start at the beginning. And I think a lot of it should not be based around politics. First of all, it should be more based around
the battles.
The battles and the idea of, I don't think Yoda, especially from how he viewed, his views in the original, would have been for the clones. Like I would have liked if Yoda had no trust for them. He's like, these are not people. Like
he doesn't come off as wise in that scene at the end where he's going up in the spaceship and just at the door and sort of, what have we done here, right? He's just sort of confused like everybody else. Yeah, I totally agree. Agree.
Like had him more against the clones. Like obviously not fighting against the clones, but have him more or less like, no, or on the vice versa.
And see, that's perfect. Like, I totally agree. Like, when I was thinking before about like some of those dark situations, it's like those situations where they wonder what they've signed on for, who they've teamed up with when the clones, take out a village or something like that or whatever, and Obi-Wan's with them or Yoda's with them. It's like, oh, right, and recognizing that divide between them ultimately supporting the dark side and not the path of the Jedi kind of thing, right?
I'd either have that, or you never watched the Clone Wars cartoon.
No.
I think it's actually the first episode, and I remember I watched it not too long ago, and I actually thought it was interesting, and it's the opposite. The plot involves Yoda and a group of clones going to this meeting, and like they have to go through, like it's basically a big test where they have to go through this army, and the idea is they're going to do it with just a small number. And during it, Yoda has a good moment with the clones where he says, just because you're clones doesn't mean you're not people. And like really tries to focus to them saying, no, you are all special. You're all different people. And that could also, so I would either have him against it because they're clones, or have everyone else go, they're clones. Like this is not good. And then Yoda go, they may be clones, but they're still all different people. And have him more or less, even have literally the Clone Wars be basically Yoda and these clones fighting the droid army, and Yoda trying to show the Jedi going, these are good soldiers, like these are actual people.
Well, and that would even create opportunity to have some friction between the different clones and have one or two that were those more like the human element coming out and stuff like that. Even before, for what you were saying with Anakin's training, like that would have been cool to happen during the Clone Wars, right? And have that like as he's battling, and maybe that be some of the down parts after the battle is like Obi-Wan or Yoda training him, and then with what I was talking about with the clones exposing some of their predilection or being on the dark side, then Anakin could have sort of been like, fighting against what Obi-Wan or Yoda said as far as that being wrong, or you could, they could obviously do things to show that he sort of supported their actions or whatever, right? There's just...
And that would have been actually a very good transition to his fall to the dark side. They could have had it where Yoda was right, but no one agreed with him. They're like, okay, yes, they might be good soldiers, but they're still not people. And Anakin's like, no, these are people, and he grows it, like he fights alongside these clones. He really gets to know them, and then he sees the Jedi really treat them like dirt, and then his views of going, oh well, the Jedi aren't so high and mighty.
And as his powers develop, you could have like a crux, like a scene where there's like a fulcrum and things shift, where there's a definitive action by the stormtroopers, and Anakin is like, no, I'm with these guys.
Yeah,
and that would be cool. Like that could be interesting.
And like have it like, so then it would focus more on the idea of, like, for example, I'm a history fan, and there's a lot of examples of, for example, you know who Napoleon Bonaparte was, right?
1812, baby.
So after he was
Waterloo, baby.
So after he was exiled and he came back, a little history lesson for everyone. He was coming back, and the leaders of France were obviously not happy that he was back because he would threaten their power. So he sent a bunch of troops to him to defeat him. But the problem was, all the soldiers liked Napoleon because he was part of them. So he joined them, and eventually it grew. It could be like that, like showing that he may be a Jedi, but he has more connection with them. So it could be still Sidious does Order 66, but just with the clones. And he still thinks, these are my brothers, I'm going with them. And then Sidious kind of acknowledges him. Instead of it being, he's like a little pet to Sidious. Sidious could know, like, this is good for him. I just think...
That's another thing that I didn't like about just thinking about him not as Anakin Skywalker, but as like pre-Darth Vader. Mm-hmm. It was the relationship between like
Sidious.
Darth Sidious and him, because he did seem like a lap boy sort of. And again, I didn't picture Vader. Like obviously he bows down to Palpatine and the Emperor's authority in the new ones, but just that whole dynamic of that relationship didn't make a lot of sense with the way Vader's character turns out to be. He
still bows, but I think it would have been cooler to have it, in a perfect world, this is how the prequels would have ended, to me. Again, everyone has their own thing. For me, it would have been, again, I almost said Luke. Anakin is with the Stormtroopers, and he originally turns on the Jedi not because he wants to be a Sith, but because of the clones. The Clone War, so it's not, love that ended up corrupting him. It's war. War is what turned him into Vader. And then even when he first starts talking to Sidious, and Sidious is like, be my lappy, he's still like, I'm not loyal to you, I'm loyal to them.
Yes.
Then after a while, after he gets
the
hurt
power or something like that, and after the injuries, that would definitely make him vulnerable to a powerful figure who's reaching out to him or whatever, right? Like that. And just like continuing with some of these issues or whatever, it's just that, like, I forgot what I was going to say.
In the original, to me, Vader wasn't bowing to the Emperor because of loyalty or anything. It was more or less, not really respect, but Darth Vader knew he couldn't do anything. Like, even when he talks to him, it's not, oh, I'm very sorry, Master. It's, okay. Like, he still seems very high up. So if you had it where he's not a lapdog, he's just, it's like when you have a superior at work. Like, you don't go up to your boss and get angry. You just kind of go along with it. It's like, yes. Like, you might have to call him my Emperor, like, all the time, but have it more of, after a time, they've kind of grown to be more friendly towards each other. But he's not. So then at the very end, when he does go against him, it's not, he was so loyal to him. It was kind of more of, he was falling towards loyal. And then right before, it would add more to his arc of him going to be loyal and then bouncing away.
Okay, and I remember what I was going to say, because these, like, I like this as far as like the things we're talking about, or some concept like that as far as driving him to the dark side more than like the way his mom died, and the way he found her. Like, could you enact a cliche in a bigger way? His mom has been kidnapped for 2 months or something. He goes and finds her for 10 seconds, and she dies in his arm, and then he kills the whole village. And then he wants his power. Like, I remember this being, I just thought this is ridiculous when he's like, I want to keep people from dying. That's the type of Jedi I want to be. I want to be able to prevent death, and no one that I love should ever be able to die. Again, it's like that whole idea we were talking about before of like, but things die. That's what makes life special. And all of a sudden you're going to be this Jedi that keeps people alive all the time. Like, I'm not, that's not the way I think of Jedis. I think of them being a force for good, not being a force for everlasting life or immortality or whatever, right? And I found that like so, like those, his motivation for joining the dark side, again, like, so Vader's the ultimate mama's boy.
Yeah.
Right? like, and who can't stand the thing that happens to everything that's alive. Like, it's just like, no. No, Darth Vader understands that things die. Because he kills things. And
He's
he
happy
likes
with it.
Yeah, he likes doing that. Like,
It's like a space Norman Bates.
Absolutely.
That's actually why his helmet has the long hair. He's pretending to be his mother. That's what it is.
Those motivations, like his mom dying, and that was super cliche. That's another thing that I just did not like at all. Like him slaughtering the sand people, like that goes with his character, but I thought it was very contrived how he got there. And then the whole thing of wanting to prevent anything from dying ever, anything that he loves can't die. It was not convincing for me at all. No.
Yeah. All around, episode 2 is not anywhere close to my favorite Star Wars movie.
Yes, it did, and like we've been ripping on it for a while. It's a Star Wars movie. Like, Obi-Wan Kenobi's in it, Yoda's in it, like pre-Darth Vader is sort of in it, or whatever. And there's lightsabers and stuff. Like, so there's good things about it, but it's just my passion about the things that I don't like just speaks to how much I love the entire series, right? Because I just wanted it to be another one that was as solid as the other ones. Overall, I do think it's a decent movie. Like, I don't think it's a terrible movie overall, but it's just not on the same level as the other Star Wars movies for me.
Well, I think that's a good way to wrap up this episode. Post in the comments what you think, what your opinion is on episode 2.
Yes, you can tell us what you liked, you can tell us what you didn't like, and of course, why we were wrong. That's always good to hear.
So, and if you say it's a good movie, we will ignore you, but it's always good to have you down there to fill up those comment sections. So we'll see you next week with another episode on Star Wars, which is always fun. So thank you for watching. Bye.